The world spins on, full of sunny postcards and smiling faces, but tucked behind the curtain of the ordinary are places where the rules of nature fray and tear like old cloth. Places that whisper secrets best left unheard. A haunted forest in Japan, where something ancient stirs beneath the mist. An abandoned village in Iceland, where something monstrous slithers through frozen earth. A cursed woodland in Romania, where the trees themselves seem to breathe. 3 travelers, 3 destinations, and 1 chilling truth. Welcome to Weird Encounters, a place where the ordinary fades into shadow and the unexplainable comes alive. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and become part of our ever-growing community of the curious. Now prepare yourself, because what you are about to hear is not for the faint of heart. In a remote stretch of earth where old legends linger like morning mist, the quiet isn't peace. It's warning. Some places still wear the scars of ancient terror, places where those who stray too far from the lights rarely return whole. This story comes from one such place, a strange and chilling corner of the world where something old and hungry still walks the dark. I don't really know how to start this. I'm not sure who would even believe me, but I just need to tell someone what happened before it drives me crazy. My name's Aaron, I'm 37, and I work freelance doing travel videography. I had taken a job that was supposed to be pretty straightforward, film the more off-the-beaten-path parts of Japan for a YouTube travel series. Kind of edgy tourism stuff. I've been to Japan before, a couple of times actually, but I never had any reason to go near Mount Fuji, the so-called suicide forest. Even before I went in, the locals in the nearest town were weird about it. One lady who ran a little soba noodle shop wouldn't even let me say where I was heading. She just kept waving her hand and telling me to stay with the living. I thought it was just superstition. The day I went in, it was foggy, not raining exactly, but wet, with that heavy air that makes everything sound muffled. You could hear your own breath louder than anything else. I had my camera rigged up for low-light filming, extra batteries, external mics, the whole setup. At first, it was just what you'd expect. Dense trees, roots twisting up out of the ground like veins, almost no wildlife sounds. No birds, no insects, really either, just my boots crunching on leaves. I was filming some old abandoned tents when I realized I hadn't marked my trail properly. Rookie mistake. I kept moving, though. Honestly, I wasn't that worried at first. I had a GPS tracker. I figured I could backtrack. About 2 hours in, I came across this... I don't even know what to call it. It was kind of like a shrine, but wrong. All sticks tied together into strange shapes. Not the neat little shrines you usually see near the forest's entrances. This looked frantic, almost angry. There were feathers too, but they were charred, blackened and sticking to the wood like they'd been glued on with blood. I should have turned around then. Instead, I filmed it. That's when I noticed the smell, like copper and something rotting. It wasn't just in the air, it felt like it got stuck in the back of my throat. I heard movement then. Heavy, dragging steps. Thought it was another hiker at first, but when I called out, no answer. Just that noise coming closer. I crouched down behind a fallen tree, trying to steady my camera, thinking maybe I'd get footage of a wild boar or something. But what came out of the mist wasn't anything I could explain. It was tall, like really tall. 8, maybe 9 feet if I had to guess. Thin, almost skeletal. Its skin looked stretched, grayish. And its face wasn't right. It didn't have eyes, or if it did, they were just sunken holes. Its mouth was this thin, gaping slash that didn't seem to move when it breathed. It had these long arms that almost dragged on the ground, and the way it moved, it was like it was feeling for something. I stayed completely still, barely breathing, I don't know how long I watched it search around, sniffing the air like it knew I was there but couldn't quite place me. My heart was hammering so hard I thought it would hear it. And then it tilted its head, fast, snapped it toward me. I ran. I didn't even think about it. I just bolted through the trees. The branches whipped at my face, cut my arms. I dropped my camera at some point, didn't even notice. Just ran until I couldn't breathe. And I swear it chased me. Not just footsteps behind me, but this awful shrieking noise, like metal scraping on metal, mixed with what sounded like a woman crying. It felt like it was everywhere. Somewhere in the blind panic, I tripped into this ravine. Not deep, maybe 10 feet down, but I hit the bottom hard and rolled into this stagnant pool of water, freezing cold, black as ink. The mud was thick. It sucked at my boots, made it almost impossible to move. And even worse, there were things floating in it. Tangles of hair, cloth, bones. I don't even want to think about it too much. I could hear it above me, sniffing, pacing. I stayed there, half submerged, for what felt like hours. Eventually, the steps faded. The forest got quiet again, but not safe. Never safe. When I finally dragged myself out and climbed up the bank, the forest seemed different, even thicker, like it didn't want me to leave. It took me the rest of the night, moving only when I was sure it was clear, to find my way back to the trailhead. The people at the visitor station didn't even ask questions. They just handed me a blanket and hot tea, like they knew. Later, when I asked a local guide about it, he just shook his head and said, in broken English, "Not ghost, not man. Old thing, live here before we come." I don't think it was a ghost, and I don't think it was human, and I'm still having nightmares about it. Romania, a land of folklore, mystery, and ancient shadows. For tourists, it's castles, rolling green hills, and friendly faces. But beyond the smiling masks and postcard-perfect villages lies something much older and far more menacing. Tonight, we go into a place many call the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania. But for one traveler, the legend became terrifyingly real. Hi, I'm not really sure how to write this out properly. I'm still trying to make sense of what happened, but if I don't get it down somewhere, I feel like I'm going to lose my mind. My name's Daniel Thompson. I'm 36, based in Manchester, UK. I'm a freelance travel photographer, and honestly, I thought I'd seen everything. Been all over. Chernobyl, the catacombs of Paris, abandoned insane asylums in Detroit. You name it. I figured Romania's Hoia Baciu forest would be more of the same. Weird trees, some ghost stories, maybe some staged creepy stuff for tourists. But I couldn't have been more wrong. It started off normal. I stayed in a little guest house on the edge of town. The woman who ran it, Anna, was friendly at first, until I mentioned the forest. Then she got real serious, real fast, told me not to go alone. She said even the animals avoided that place. She even tried to talk me out of it and said to me, "There are things there that are not for us." I should have listened. April 10th, 2025. Cold, but sunny. I set out mid-morning with my gear, camera, tripod, handheld recorder, backup battery, survival gear. I wasn't being stupid about it. I'd done my research. The second I stepped into the forest, the air changed. I don't know how to explain it. It felt charged, like static electricity all around me. At first, it was just strange trees, twisted, spiraled trunks, gnarled roots. It looked fake, like someone had bent them on purpose. There weren't any animals, no bird song, no insects, just the crunch of my boots on dead leaves. After about an hour, I reached the famous clearing, the circle. Nothing grows there. No grass, no flowers, no trees, just bare dirt. It's a perfect circle, like something had scorched the earth clean. I set up my camera to do some long exposures. Maybe catch something cool. Maybe just have a good story. But after about 15 minutes, things started happening. First, the temperature dropped. Like, fast. I could see my breath even though it wasn't that cold when I started. Then I started hearing whispers. Real faint. At first, I thought it was the wind, but there was no wind. And the whispering, it sounded like it was coming from just behind me. I spun around a few times, called out, but there was no answer. And then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement, a shape, tall, black, like smoke, but heavier. It didn't walk, it slid. I turned fully, and there was nothing there. I told myself it was just nerves. Sleep deprivation, maybe. I packed up my gear and started heading back, but the path was different. It shouldn't have been different. I know I hadn't turned around, but everything was wrong. Trees looked unfamiliar. Landmarks I'd noted earlier were gone. It was like the forest had changed while I wasn't looking. Then came the sounds. Footsteps. Behind me. Light at first, then heavier. Every time I stopped, they stopped. I turned around, but the forest looked empty. And then the worst part. My equipment started failing. My GPS started spinning, pointing in random directions. My camera screen glitched and flickered. My handheld recorder started playing back something I hadn't recorded. It was my own voice whispering, "Don't turn around, don't turn around." I dropped the recorder, left it there. Didn't care anymore. I just ran. I don't even remember making the decision to run. My body just knew. The forest around me seemed to close in tighter. The trees seemed taller, the sky darker, even though it was still mid-afternoon. It was like something was bending reality around me. I ran until I physically couldn't anymore. My lungs burned, my legs gave out. I collapsed near what looked like an old stone foundation. Maybe an ancient house or a grave marker, I don't know. And that's when I heard it. A baby crying. Soft at first, coming from the trees. Then louder, closer, but it wasn't right. It didn't sound like a real baby. It sounded distorted, like someone pretending to be a baby. I couldn't move, couldn't think. Just lay there, frozen, listening to that awful crying getting closer and closer. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw figures between the trees, dozens of them, pale faces, huge black eyes, watching, not moving, just watching. And then they started whispering again, all at once. The only word I could make out was, "Stay." I don't know how long I lay there. Time didn't feel real anymore. Eventually, the crying stopped, the whispers faded, and somehow, I don't even remember standing up. I found myself back at the edge of the forest, stumbling out like a drunk. Anna was waiting for me at the guest house, said she knew I'd come back different. And she was right. I can't sleep now, not without hearing the whispers. My photos. Half of them are corrupted. The ones that aren't, they show things I don't remember seeing. Figures, faces, shadows that don't match the landscape. I don't know what Hoyabachu really is. A portal, a trap, something worse. All I know is, some part of me is still there, and some part of it came home with me. Some places wear their tragedies openly, scars on the land for all to see. Others, they bury them deep, hidden under the polite smiles of the locals, whispered only in dark corners. In the windswept valleys of Iceland, one such place hides a nightmare that refuses to stay buried. I don't even know where to begin with this. Part of me still thinks maybe it was the cold, or exhaustion, or something else messing with my head. But then I see the marks, and I remember the way the ground shook, and I know it wasn't in my mind. My name's Jeremy. I'm 42 from Manchester, UK. I'm a travel photographer, landscapes mostly. The weirder, the better. So, naturally, I had to get up to the West Fjords in Iceland, places hardly anyone goes anymore. The place I visited isn't even a real town anymore. Just a scattering of old buildings and a rundown hotel that looks abandoned half the time. Used to be a big herring processing village back in the 1930s until it dried up. Now, it's just a stop for ghost town enthusiasts and photographers like me. When I got there, the weather was already foul. Heavy snow, winds coming down the mountains like knives. I almost turned back, but I had a stubborn streak that didn't want to leave without at least a few shots of the abandoned factory ruins by the shoreline. Locals at the last gas station warned me, though. Two older guys, fishermen, said something about the land not being right after dark. They wouldn't explain, just told me to leave before sunset. They wouldn't even take my money when I asked for directions. I thought it was some old superstition about trolls or elves. You hear about that a lot over there. Icelanders are strange about their hidden folk. But it wasn't elves. I hiked out to the old factory around 3:30 p.m. In winter, the light fades fast. It's this weird, endless twilight where nothing ever feels fully real. The factory was haunting. Rusted beams, broken windows, fish oil still staining the walls after all these decades. Everything smelled metallic, like blood and seawater. I was inside for maybe an hour, shooting when I noticed the silence. No wind, no distant waves, just silence. I stepped outside and the snow had almost stopped. That should have been good news, except the air was wrong. It was heavy, thick like it was pressing against me, and then the ground trembled. Not an earthquake, not a full shake, more like something big moving underground. I backed away from the building, thinking maybe the structure was unstable. But then I saw something across the ice field between the factory and the frozen coastline. At first, I thought it was a drift of snow, a long white lump. But it moved. It unfolded. It was this hulking thing, pale and slimy, like a bloated whale carcass mixed with something spider-like. It had too many legs, bending the wrong way, and its body sort of shimmered like heat on pavement. I just froze. It didn't have eyes that I could see, but it definitely knew I was there. It raised its head, or what I think was its head, and let out this sound. God, I'll never forget that sound. It was like a human scream, stretched out and slowed down until it was barely recognizable. The factory walls behind me vibrated from it. I ran, stumbling through snowdrifts, almost blind from terror. I didn't even care where I was going, just away from that thing. My camera slammed against my chest, and I dropped my tripod somewhere behind me. The thing chased me, but not fast. It didn't need to be. It moved like it was gliding just under the snow. I swear I could see ripples forming ahead of it, like something swimming beneath the surface. I ended up diving into a crumbled shack near the edge of the village, the old canteen, I think. And there, scratched into the wood inside the doorframe, were dozens of carvings. Words in Icelandic I couldn't understand, but I recognized one word over and over. Draugr. I'd heard that word before. It's not some playful ghost like in fairy tales. Draugr are the restless dead, corpses that don't rot, creatures that guard cursed treasure, or in this case, a cursed place. The thing scraped against the building for hours. I stayed pressed against the floor, clutching a rusted iron pipe I found, knowing it wouldn't save me if it came in. At some point during the night, I must have passed out from exhaustion or hypothermia. When I woke up, the sun was barely rising, and the creature was gone. But it left something behind, giant, deep gouges in the frozen ground, like claw marks. And worse, my camera bag was still there outside the shack, but when I checked the footage, The last few files were corrupted, just static, except for one video. It's only 5 seconds long, but it shows something moving behind me in the mist, something white and massive, and then the footage just cuts out. I left immediately after that, and I'm never going back. And so, another strange encounter fades away. A trick of the mind, or something far more unsettling. That's for you to decide. Thank you so much for watching my stories. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your support is what keeps this channel going.